people in the live audience. You just so happen to have come to the smallest venue that we have had all year. We've just started hybrid meetings in January, and I'm making an effort to get to every part of the district because as many of you know, living in the first district and in the unincorporated county, we are underrepresented, most of us not living in the cities, and I think it's really important to come and have these neighborhood-centric meetings as frequently as possible. So we've got right now about, just so you guys know, in the live audience, people online, and I would say about 40 people here in the live audience. So great crew tonight. This is a meeting that's focused on issues for the Soquel area. So everything sort of from the edge of the city of Capitola 41st north and east. And so as you can see by the agenda here, I'm going to go through and talk about each one of these little green bullet points here. Again, apologies for the people in the live audience. This is probably also our most old school venue. We didn't realize that the projector, there's not actually a projector here. So you can log into the Zoom from your phone if you go to, and you'll be able to see the slides better that way. I think if you go to the Board of Supervisors link and then click on my picture and then click on the Zoom link for today's meeting, you'll get to the Zoom that way. And we'll also put out the slides later so you have an opportunity to see them in more detail then. Yeah, question about the process?
My question is, I know you have issues that you would like to convey to all of us. How much of the meeting is to be Q&A so that we can say something?
I think it'll be a significant amount, probably close to an hour. So we're scheduled today for 6 to 7:30. I think that as far as the number of slides I've got to go through, it'll probably take 30 minutes to cover all of these issues, and then there'll be plenty of time for question and answer. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I just want to touch on is the Soquel Drive Buffered Bike Lane and Congestion Mitigation Project. This is actually going to get started as soon as this summer, and it's going to go from La Fonda Avenue by Harbor High all the way to State Park Drive. We're not adding any new lanes, but really going to get traffic moving a lot better. And the reason for that is because there's going to be 22 new adaptive, I'm sorry.
Sorry, nope.
Getting a little feedback there. 22 adaptive traffic signals. As any of you who drive on Soquel know, a big problem is just the lights are not timed very well. These will actually be wired together traffic signals, and they'll be timed better, and so it'll really get traffic moving better. They'll also be able to tell when a bus is coming or waiting, and be able to change the light a little bit in relation to public transit so that our buses move better. In addition to that, basically this entire corridor we're putting in either buffered or protected bike lanes, so it'll be a lot safer to bike along Soquel Drive in this segment. And then we're also filling holes in the sidewalk infrastructure, a total of just about a little over half a mile of new sidewalk gap closures, but 94 ADA ramp upgrades. So for folks in a wheelchair or other similar devices, it'll be a lot easier to use the sidewalks. So again, this will start this summer. Because most of it, a lot of the sidewalk work and bike lane work can happen without blocking the lanes. So hopefully it won't have too much of an impact on traffic. That said, I'll move on to the next project. We are also moving forward with the Highway 1 project we anticipate this summer. So this is the auxiliary lane project and bus on shoulder project. So much like happened between the Fish Hook and Morrissey of adding that lane where sort of entry exit lane, we're going to keep building those essentially all the way to the choke point at Freedom Drive exit, where if you drive on the highway, you know that's really what causes that backup in the morning for people commuting in from the south. And that area around Aptos causes a lot of the problem as you go south in the evening. So phase 1 is from Soquel Drive to 41st Avenue. Construction on that would start this summer. And then phase 2 is from 41st Avenue to State Park Drive. That's anticipated to start next year, 2023. Those two phases are completely funded. We received a huge state grant of over $100 million. It's actually sort of a record for our county to receive. We received the second largest grant from the state, second only to LA County, which, considering our size, 275,000 people, to LA County's 10 million, is pretty amazing. And we're going to need to go out for another state grant, probably around $100 million just for the Aptos segment. There's a lot of problems in that segment between the two rail bridges there, as well as the bridge over Aptos Creek, which makes it just very expensive. We're doing that design work now. And ultimately, the project that we decide to move forward with on the rail trail will have a big impact on that. And so we're doing studies right now with the environmental impact report for whether to move forward with rail and trail, or an interim trail built on the rail bed, which would allow us to, it would really reduce the cost of this project, because we wouldn't have to rebuild the bridges over the highway for the train to the same standards. There's a number of, I'll go back to the slide quickly, a number of new bike and pedestrian improvements here as well. So there's going to be the Chanticleer Avenue bike and pedestrian overcrossing. There'll also be a bike and pedestrian overcrossing at Mar Vista. And then the Capitola Avenue Bridge is getting a much needed upgrade, which you can see on this slide, just much wider sidewalks and actual bike lanes there. And you can also see what that looks like with the full auxiliary lane as well. And again, apologies, ma'am, for the slides, but we'll send them out afterwards.
The block in the middle of the slides, is that necessary to be there?
Oh, sorry. Okay. A little better.
People can't park in front of our driveways in this park. We can't park our own cars right now. They're gonna have to move the cars out of the park.
Okay, are you in the mobile home park, sir? Okay.
The entire road is blocked back there. We cannot have that.
Okay, is there anyone parked?
By the way, I voted for you, so.
Got it, sir. All right, anyone parked over on the driveway to the mobile home park? If you could please move your car. It's got to be some of you. It sounds like along the side that it's still preventing people from entering and exiting. Okay. There'll be plenty of time. You won't miss a Q&A section. Okay, so that's the Highway 1 project. Also, the road right out front of us is going to be repaved and improved with multimodal improvements. We actually, at the Regional Transportation Commission, won or got a historic amount of money for county roads this year, over $7 million. That's really our fair share of state gas tax money. And 1.4 million of that is for Soquel San Jose Road here, the first 3 miles up to Laurel Glen Road, and that'll be both resurfacing and improvements for most of the lane on this.
Give us a minute. We'll try to get this figured out, folks. Well, this is the first. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.
All right. So yes, so as far as our property tax dollars, our county only gets 13 cents on the dollar. Most of it goes to actually to our schools and other communities. Basically the rates were the ratios were frozen when Prop 13 passed, and so it's basically would take a statewide ballot initiative to change our ratio to be higher to actually get enough funding to go after improving county roads. It could be done, but very difficult to pass a statewide ballot initiative. We need about $20 million to win it. And one other thing I'll mention, yeah, we'll leave it there. So really, in order to fill the road funding gap we have in this community, the easiest thing or the most elegant fix would be to change the ratio of property taxes that the county gets to from 13% to more like 20%, the way many other communities have. But that would be very hard politically. On the other side, the simplest thing we could do would be to have a new property tax measure to pay for roads. If everyone paid $400 per parcel, we'd be able to solve the roughly $16 to $20 million funding gap. I know that probably doesn't sound very exciting to you either. So, I realize that might not be the solution. Otherwise, we're going to have to look at some combination of measures, whether it's a half-cent sales tax, transit occupancy tax, which will be is levied on visitors to hotels or short-term rentals. That'll be on your ballot this June. Managing to grow the cannabis industry and getting more taxes from that source, allowing more weddings and event permits. That could provide a small amount of money, but ultimately this is a huge task, and it's going to take a community-wide effort. I'd love to hear which measures you think would work for you and which would not.
Manu, I've got a question. Actually, I've got a couple of questions.
Just wait till we're going to have a long period of question and answer at the end. And
we may lose context, Manu. It's real quick. How much money are we expected to get from the infrastructure bill?
I'm sorry, I can't answer your question right now. It wouldn't be fair. If you could raise your hand now, we'll start moving through the queue as soon as I'm done with the slides. Good news is, so we have 3 Measure D projects coming up this next year, literally this year. So repaving Fairway Drive, Thurber Lane, and Portola Drive. So those are all, we're trying to pick with the little money we have. This is about $2 million. We're trying to pick the roads that will connect the most people in the largest neighborhoods. Okay, cell service was brought up. The Verizon cell tower at the Seventh-day Adventist site actually has started doing some site prep work. They started in February and expect to reach completion, I believe, this year. If you can see this slide at all, it should lead to much improved cell service, not only throughout the village, but the entire valley here. And so as someone who has also experienced difficulty connecting to the internet in the village and in this whole area, and as we just saw, I'm looking forward to this project, improving connectivity.
That's Bromer near 7th? Seventh-day Adventist is Bromer near 7th?
No, this is the Seventh-day Adventist site up Old San Jose Road here.
Thank you.
Just a ways. We're also seeing the first broadband projects go to work. So with some of the federal, the American Rescue Plan Act funding that the county got, we allocated $500,000 to improving broadband access throughout the community. Just in February, we awarded Cruise.io with a plan to put in 20 wireless hotspots throughout the county. A contract has already been signed for 4 of those with the Live Oak School District. So the central Live Oak area will get much better service. And then we've got 2 prospective sites right here on Soquel Drive, one on top of Aldo's, and then one at the Emerald Bay Apartments. And because there's actually the Synesis fiber line running right under Soquel Drive, those wireless points will actually be able to offer practically fiber speeds. So really promising, and we hope to continue to roll out in more access points with a similar program as we start to see more state and federal dollars. State middle mile funding is being worked out right now. And so if you would like to write to the governor about that, you can go to middlemile@state middlemile@state.ca.gov, or rather email middlemile@state.ca.gov, and just let them know where you'd like to see some of that middle mile go in. Okay, 2838 Park Avenue, the Home Key project. An application was submitted to the state at the end of January, and they have 45 days to respond to us. So that means, as you're doing the math too, we should actually hear back from them any day now about whether that project won the application for $13.5 million. One of the things that gives me confidence in this project is that it's reserved for very specific populations. So 17 vets, 14 former foster youth, and 4 families. So those are families with kids under the age of 18. And there would be 1 on-site manager. This would be permanent housing. So it's actually not housing for homeless people, because as soon as they're placed in this or are lucky enough to receive a unit in this building, they're no longer homeless. There's no time limit to the amount of time that they could stay there. These are not going to be people rotating through every 6 months, every year. Once they have a lease in place, assuming they abide by the terms of their lease, they can keep that for as long as they want. Also, depending on exactly which source they get, which kind of housing voucher they get, tenants with jobs or any kind of income would pay about 30% of their income towards their housing. If someone doesn't have income at the time, they wouldn't have to pay, but case managers will help residents to develop life skills and ultimately get jobs or develop income streams. I've heard some concerns about what happens if
Looks like we're losing our internet again. Hold on.
So I want to know, is there a forum that we can share, even if, I'm actually in support of a affordable housing project. This, by scale, by mass, by fire issues, by accessibility, it doesn't work. So we want to make sure that if it goes through, there's an opportunity to modify it. I'm having the fire department tell me they're willing to, and will actually require somehow it be modified. But if it's funded for 36 units that can't fit, I'm concerned. I don't know if there's any questions you have for me. You've probably seen my list.
I have seen the list of concerns and various issues that you pointed out.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not a technical expert enough to be able to speak to
Yeah.
each one of those tonight.
Yeah.
But what I can do is make sure that county staff, if the project is going to move forward at all, and again, it doesn't receive funding here within the next few days to a week, then the conversation moves, right? But if it is going to move forward, at least from the state funding being allocated, I'll certainly make sure that we involve all the folks from the fire, county planning, and bring them to the next public meeting we have with the developers, so they can speak to some of the finer points and issues that you have. And I think if the state funding gets awarded, probably the number of units would be fixed at 36, but if it was going to move forward, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. The project can be adjusted to for better fire access or other considerations like that.
So okay, so no, so I'll let. There's a lot of other people that want to talk, but right, but well, let me just. Yeah, I'll just finish.
So that everybody online can hear your questions as well, or your comments.
Well, thank you. I hope we actually have an opportunity to have some resolution of these before it basically does get funded, because the funding is based on representations that it's not technical.
Thank you.
I mean, but just to your point, it does have to be consistent with county code.
Well, no, it does. Just 1 second, sir. She had raised her hand.
Manu, I have one question and I'd like it answered. Who decided on this spot? Who?
It was not a friend of mine. I'm not getting a kickback. The first I heard about it was a conversation with the Human Services Department, the Planning Department, that said that they were talking to the owner of the property and considering doing some kind of a project there. And literally the next time I heard about it was when the home key application was completed and coming to us for approval. This is one application of 4 that our county has submitted, including one on Highway 9 in the Watsonville area and on River Street.
Let me complete. I'm aware that there are other possibilities and there are
Sorry, other possibilities?
that there might be other locations that would be more appropriate than what I've been describing. If you were to list the criteria for individuals who care for mindfully. By the way, I'm not in favor of 3 different populations being crammed into one facility. Low income and elderly, medically stressed, veterans in one unit. But be that as it may, that's another situation. The criteria for what type of facility and its location area. And by the way, I went to that Willowbrook outdoor gathering, and there were over 200 people. None of them were in favor of this project. None of them. Because they thought wrong for the area. And so I want to know who decided that area. Often developer wanted for many over 2 decades wanted to sell that property. And they did so because there was a need for so how can we move forward on this with everybody? I wasn't in that area. I was 5 or 6 miles away in Soquel. But this was like suddenly empty lot.
And if you're speaking of the mic, then
Could, in fact, I can find myself next door. No support, no input by any of us. That's one out here. There's no input.
I hear you.
I'm Grant, there are people like Gabriel.
You want to ask a question, sir? Or
Well,
comment?
I'm a structural engineer. I've reviewed the plans, and you said that they're going to follow county guidelines, but that's not true. They're eschewing the height limitation. They're putting in a 50-foot tall structure from the bottom of the grade, 50 feet tall. The FAR is not being met for that area. The parking, they're designating a half a parking space per unit when there is 0 parking in the neighborhood. Where are all these people going to park? There's a junior high across the street. There's a daycare across the street. There's a preschool across the street. I mean, it seems to be violating all kinds of issues. There are fire issues. There's no way they're going to get the hose all the way around. I do these projects. It's irresponsible. It's up against the eucalyptus. And that their fire turnaround is in the front of the building, which is not typically allowed. They need to be able to get the truck all the way around and have the turnaround behind the building. And they need to be able to get hoses 100 feet from each direction. And they don't meet any of these. They don't. So they're flouting every zoning law. Pretty much every zoning law is being thrown out the window, and it's being pushed through because the state of California is telling them that they can do it. And it feels to me like it's a developer that's going to make a lot of money and just put this huge, massive thing that typically goes through a traffic impact study, typically goes through an environmental study, typically there are all kinds of things that they're just throwing out the window, and it gets put in and then we're left to deal with it.
All this should have been done ahead of
It
time
feels like it
before
was-
you
it
submitted
was
it
all
to
done
get
in secret.
approval. Now you're trying to get money.
Secret shenanigans by a developer.
But if you first heard about it at some point, why wasn't? Yeah.
Here you go, sir.
Hello. Thank you for taking my So I've been in this community for 35 years. 35 years. I worked really hard to put my business. My concern is you deal with your 36 minutes. One manager you're going to have. Controlling all the youth, disabled people, elderly people, would be very hard. The thing is too, once you build that thing, you're already clearing up the whole area down below. There's going to be all kinds of homeless people from all over town. Put a homeless shelter, what do you call it, a tent. So it's going to change the whole thing. Energy is going to change the whole community. It's not going to put safe block on the street. Whole area is going to change. There's two parks, Park Avenue, Mulberry, and Blue. Two schools. It's going to make it very, very difficult for them to enjoy the peaceful. My worry is that they're coming from the other part of the town and tenting right here, camping around the surrounding area.
Okay. Right. So thank you for coming. Thank you for building an incredible business in the first district. You know, as I wrote to you the other day, I mean, with all the budget challenges the county faces, your market is one of the top producers of sales tax revenue, and that we try to put that back into, of course, positive public projects. I hear that, and the concern is natural. I mean, I think our entire community is
nothing against the homeless, helping homeless folks, you know, but I'm just worried that it's not the right location.
I understand. So, like I was saying, I think our entire community is probably traumatized from the impact of homelessness in general. I mean, as someone that works downtown at the county building most days, believe me, I see it more than anyone. And of course, the impact on the downtown businesses has been tremendous. And I would never want to allow that to come to continue to spread into other parts of the county and the community. And that's why I've been proactive, working with Shane, with Jamie, with Christina, to try to remove illegal encampments wherever we can, whether it's on the on-ramps at 41st Avenue or Bromer Street Park. Right, because we've been proactive about that. And I will absolutely, whether this project happens or not, continue to be just as proactive in your neighborhood. And I, you know, the timing on the clearing of those trees, I think was really unfortunate. I mean, it's a different property owner, and
how did you get away with that?
So he came to the county and let us know that they were going to do some trimming, and we saw, you know, and applied with a certain amount of stuff, and then overstepped those bounds significantly. We're now working with code compliance to straighten them out a little bit. Of course, the trees have already been cut. Okay, I'll
What kind of violation are all of them?
I can get the information about what specific violation we're going to follow up with, but we'll absolutely code compliance. We'll go out there as soon as possible.
Look at the water. It's ruined.
before and after pictures, sir, before and after. There's trees all along. Now the trees are cut within that 10 foot of that water. It shouldn't have been that way. There's deer through there, pregnant deer, you know, and he's saying there was garbage through there. I was through there before. That garbage was not in there, maybe 2 pallets. It was fresh, you know. Also, my other issue is when the people go into the apartments, okay, any amount of people can stay there. I had a friend in a similar situation. He had 4, 5, 6, 7 people staying with him. It doesn't matter how many people are staying in there. 35 people, 7 people, cousins, and you know, you have no control over who stays there. You don't know how many people are in each unit. You just don't.
I'm sorry, the mic is only going to the online audience. It's not amplified within this room. I apologize.
Why this only
This was the best one we had, sir. I don't want to have.
My house is bigger than this, and it's
Right,
tiny.
thank you.
We were scheduled for the Soquel Garden pool. Yes, I'm for this. Yeah. So much you want. Yes, I hear your concerns first about the environment, the frog, the deer. Saddened to hear about that. We'll send a note of stuff out there tomorrow and after these. Quarterly written. Okay. Before most of them
Should be working.
Now, to your second question about the population and unlimited number of people moving, that would be a clear violation of on-site manager 24/7.
A vote, yeah.
Horrible. Okay, well, it would be a violation in terms of people with lose their housing. Again, the on-site manager.
Hi, guys. I'll try and talk as loud as I can just for you guys, okay? There has been a breach of trust with our leadership representation, or it feels like there has been a breach of trust with our leadership representation due to the lack of communication that has come up front and before anything else has occurred, before the deadline where the developer comes and tells us what's going to happen. And so I think a lot of us are feeling a lack of communication because of that, because it did sneak up so quickly because of the deadlines for permitting and all that. So let's restore it. Let's restore our partnership, the site assessment, the environmental compliance, all the safety. You can halt this. You can halt it and trust and restore this trust, restore the concerns that are being addressed to the satisfaction of the community and to the satisfaction of the federally overseen Fish and Wildlife Services, which is another big part of this aside from the safety, which many of us are still completely worried about. This is a mess. We are trying to clean up and we are trying to bridge the gap of understanding amongst so many in our community. They're having trouble sleeping and setting, you know, we're distraught over it. Just driving by, our kids asking what's going on over there, when we used to take our kids through and kind of look for butterflies and little things and stuff. And so the kids, you know, we're driving by and they're asking, you know, what's going on and what are we to say to them? Oh, you know, it's being torn down. You come up with your own reasoning, but regardless, just to wrap it up, this is a precious habitat. So why was this location set for this project? Why are the county not more clearly representing the zoning established to our state representatives? Otherwise, why is the state representative ignoring the due process of mandates set by federal law? There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot about ministerial approval that you guys should look up and familiarize yourselves with, because it does apply. SECA does apply to this. Ministerial approval is needed from the federal government in order to move forward and look over what's going on. So we do have the habitat that's zoned, and it's very precious to us. And there are things in place according to under the AB 2162 California Environmental Act. It requires a lead agency as defined to prepare certified completion of an environmental impact report. And it also declares that CEQA does not apply to the federal ministerial projections. So we need to get this done, and we need to ask our Fish and Wildlife Services. They do have a tip hotline if you're interested. I can give that information to you. The more people that call in, the better. And hopefully we can ask our county and our state representatives to also follow through with what the federal government is going to require to move forward with this process on that land because of the zoning. I'll get that to you at the end.
Well, if I could, first of all, I just want to address the trust issue, and I'm very sorry. Look, if I could do it. Hey, look, as I mentioned, it happened extremely quickly. Right? Because of the deadline. I'm just for the home key applications. As I mentioned, I heard about the project mentioned once, and the next thing it was on our agenda for approval. And again, it's not like this was one project only in this district. It was 4 projects throughout the entire county. First of all, if you look at the parcels, it's pretty well set back from the riparian. As I said, yes, I have been to the site and have looked at the site plan, and there is a significant amount of hillside. And again, the confusion with the neighboring parcel and all the clearing that happened, I think, has caused some of the frustration. So anyway, look, I'm sorry. What I would tell your kids, these are people who didn't have a mommy and daddy, who lived in a variety of different homes, and now we're just trying to create a place where they can get their feet under them and go to school at Cabrillo College. These are vets. These are vets who fought for our country in wars, just like we're seeing the trauma in Ukraine. And these are families with kids who will be able to finally send their kids to a preschool like the one across the street.
Look at 41st and Soquel?
Now,
why is that site not being
I'm sorry, sir. Ultimately, you need many things to make a project go forward, including the owner wanting to actually do something there. The next question.
Call me selfish or ignorant. I don't but there's a lot of families that live there. They have kids. This whole I own property over there, and yeah. You know, why should anybody have to put up with that crap? You're gonna have a lot of homeless people there, and worst of all, you're gonna have a drug problem coming through there all the time that nobody needs to put up with. And also, my concern is that my property values and property there are going to drop for that reason. And why should I put up with that kind of stuff? Why should any of us put up with that?
Again, I hear your concerns because the trauma our community has suffered in general. We do have a higher than average homeless population in Santa Cruz.
Have a homeless problem.
Do you want me to answer questions or not? Okay. Well, listen. I understand the concerns and the fear, but there are not going to be services offered at this building for people that aren't housed in this building. It won't attract people who don't live in the neighborhood. So much of the problem that we see at Coral Street or downtown is because free meals are passed out by numerous different providers in the area, because health services are provided for free, whether to people in the area. And so showers are handed out or are provided in the area. None of those services would be available to people who are not housed at the building itself. And so between that, the very enforcement that I mentioned, I would have practiced throughout this district and will continue in this area as well, are what are going to prevent a homeless shanty town from springing up next to this development. If anything, because of everyone's concern, because of the investment and the time that everyone has made into this, I think there's even a greater incentive to ensure that nothing like that would happen in this area.
All righty.
The effect on property value. I honestly do not believe it'll negatively impact your property value.
We do have All right. Can I get everyone's attention? We do have additional individuals online that would like to ask questions. We are going to be transitioning to the next portion and allow them to provide some questions as well. Would that be
Can we
get?
I just wanted to say that I was just asked to unmute, so I hope that's okay that I did that. I just wanted to say that I get in theory what you're trying to do, and it makes sense logically on paper, but we have all experienced the homelessness situation in this area, and there's are a lot of drugs and mental problems involved. My sister is a homeless person in this area, so I speak from not only from my observations for living here for over 10 years, but also I have a family member that's there, and I can tell you that you will not be able to control the drugs that are going to float into our town around our kids already down at Soquel Elementary. When I walk my kids to school, some guys doing drugs are passed out on a bench on the new Heart of Soquel walk, or there's a guy that just decided to sleep and he was changing his pants as I'm walking my children over the bridge to school. All I'm saying is that if you don't have the services to deal with the mental problems and the drug problems, then this is not going to solve any problem. All it's going to do is house a bunch of people and create more problems for everybody who lives here. If you want to do this project, you need to start within the city limits of Santa Cruz. Start with the city of Santa Cruz, where there are services in a place where it's easy for them to get to. And then this is the advanced method when you have an infrastructure, but you don't have an infrastructure. So this is not going to work.
Hi, Payson.
Hi.
Hi, let me just make sure that Mona can hear us okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Payson. Sorry, guys, this is a rough one tonight.
Project which needs to go in somewhere in this county, but it doesn't need to be in a riparian corridor. It doesn't need to be where it's far from services for anyone. No bus service. I'll tell you, walk all the way up to AJ's. Can you get a bus? This whole idea about sending them to Cabrillo when they're all that's great. I mean, come on, don't be talking to me about the hardships of the world. I was married to a vet for years. I know all about this stuff, but this is not the place for it. It's just really that simple. And the lack of transparency, this thing was made so that you could take this program that you've applied to is supposed to be for existing structures like what they're using in Watsonville. Hotels, motels, they've already got bathrooms, they've already got water. This is 30 some units that don't even have water. So I don't understand. I understand why it's happening, the whole thing comes together. The state passes the ABs that say you don't need sequel review. You don't need all that stuff comes together beautifully, but it's not right. And then to kick us in the butt, we don't even get to make substantial changes. That to me doesn't sound very democratic. So that's the only thing I have to say. I appreciate this meeting, albeit those in the future, as again, I'm impacted. I'm right across the street. This is stinky. It really is stinky.
Oh, 1 second, sir. Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of the comments about the. I've been listening to a lot of comments about the Park Avenue project, and I am in sympathy with that. I'd like to. What? Oh, okay. I'd like to just address the Soquel project that's coming from Santa Cruz to Aptos, the road project. And I sent you a letter the other day. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in this area for there to be a deluxe bike lane and sidewalk for one block when before that block, there's no change, apparent change in the bike lane. And through Soquel Village, there's no change in that bike lane. So the very idea of putting in this class 4 project seems to be a little overkill for our area. The other thing is a lot of the people that live down in my area are concerned about access to the driveway in and out. They're concerned about power lines. They're concerned about the taking of the property that they thought was theirs for a long time, and now it turns out it wasn't, and the diminishing of their property. So I don't know if anything can be done to change that plan, and if it can be, we'd like to have it done.
The block between Robertson down to the sidewalk. Yeah. Yeah, I'll continue to review that with the engineer on that project to see. I mean, look, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to build a sidewalk there. I mean, if we don't take advantage of it, may never be a sidewalk there. Sidewalks cost a surprising amount of money to build. So, I mean, I don't think that we're not going to build a sidewalk there. I mean, do everything we can to make sure that it's easy to get in and out of your driveway. We do have to use as much. I mean, my understanding is we've actually reduced the width of the sidewalk area already in the plan. But I'm happy to review that in detail in your letter and follow up with that.
Well, one of the things that we of that very small neighborhood are concerned about is I think it's going to be a very expensive strip on the project. And again, it seems like it was just shoved down our throats. We had no say. It was presented. So it's kind of backing up to what you're saying too. There's something going on in the county that I think could at least be done differently so that we feel that we have some say. And I really hope that you will contact us and let us know if there's anything that can be done to vary that project. And we have some ideas we'd like to share, but we'd like to share them with the developer as well. And I'd really like to know something like what you said. I'd like to know who thought they had the right and the permission to plan that project so thoroughly before telling us. It's really, really annoying because we're going to lose a ton of property.
Is it on? I am both a veteran and I'm Colonel Terry. Is it on for sure? Can I be heard? All right. Okay. I'm both a veteran and a concerned resident of Soquel, and I was involved in being instrumental in stopping the $400 million ripoff of Cabrillo bonds last time around 5 years ago. The majority of the faculty thought was a waste of money, and it turned out to be. I also was instrumental in stopping the $200 million, close to it, bond ripoff for homeless facilities 2 years ago. And I said to the Catholic Church or leadership and the bishop, if he wants to provide homeless people housing, then let him do it from the millions the church has available. Okay, enough said. Or let him live in the Vatican City, worldwide. More importantly, sir, I also worked to get you elected. I had a poster in my drive. It's still on. Okay, almost happy to do so. And in the bed with the developers, and the bed with the bond sellers, to my disappointment after supporting him for years. So I wish you every success, okay, and every joy in doing a job I don't envy. I also challenged the corruption of Marion Barry in Washington, D.C. when I was a Capitol Hill resident. Bottom line, I came tonight because I got a call alerting me from people elsewhere in the state that they have information that Santa Cruz County has got a under the table proposal to inflict additional bonds on all of us, revenue bonds on all of us, to pay for and guarantee additional amounts for pension benefits due county employees. What a subterfuge. Now, I also evaluated Santa Cruz and compared it, because I did those things in the Air Force, to Marin County. And I basically determined, and the numbers will prove it, Santa Cruz County spends 300% more on a whole lot of things than Marin County does to do it better. Similar size populations and so forth. There is no respect for the taxpayers and their money by most of the members of the supervisors, and certainly by all the senior managers I have encountered in the county government. And I say that, I don't say things I haven't got evidence for, and I don't say things I'm not disappointed in. I stay here because of the weather, not because I have confidence in the county government. Again, I wish you every success. I didn't mean to talk that, but I alert you to find out, please, about this secret additional. I look at my tax bill. I understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's true that we did recently issue some bonds to pay for pension liabilities. These are not new pension liabilities. They were already incurred, and we were essentially paying the interest on those every year. As many of you know, it's a historically low interest rate right now. And just like it's a great time to refinance your house, it's a really great time to refinance your pension liabilities. And so these bonds are not adding any new taxes. They, in fact, because they're saving the county, they're adding $1 to $2 million to the county budget every year. They will going forward, because instead of paying that money to CalPERS annually at really high rates, we're at like 7%, we're able to get a bond for about 3%. And the savings there will actually create more money for the county budget and will not add any new taxes. Sure. I'm happy to send you that information. Okay, I'm going to take one last question from the audience here, and then we do have a large number of people online. I'm going to have to go to online.
All right, I just have a comment on that, which is sad. And it's sad is that we've been in the same room because of the Nissan project. And it was the proposed Nissan project. The same thing happened, that we were in the dark and we didn't know anything about it. And that's sad. It's sad for you. It was sad for Leopold, but an entire room in this library, we found out about Nissan after the fact because of a developer that came from Carmel. All right, that's nevertheless. What I do want to say is I want to thank you for cleaning up the tent on 41st Avenue. I think it was a traffic hazard. I saw a bunch of people and I looked and I thought, oh, this is dangerous. And what I also want to say is that I am a retiree social worker, and the organization that will run this project is the same organization. I'm not talking developer, the same organization that ran in Watsonville. It's still existing today, the Pajaro, the Wall Street Inn. And so as a social worker who worked next door for 25 years, one manager on site isn't enough. You're going to need more services, because when the manager on site is dealing with a diaper that got flushed down the toilet, and you have transitional youth that need help, that manager's busy and they can't be available 24/7. I say this from experience. So more services, more services, more services. And it's not a lot of transitional youth that are able. This population has experienced trauma. Vets have experienced trauma. Transitional youth have been removed from their families because of trauma, physical abuse, emotional abuse, other issues. And so this population needs a lot of support to be able to even to go to Cabrillo, to be able to get a job. So more services for success. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Mono, for your hard work.
All right, last question here, and then we'll put on.
I am a resident of the condo complex that is directly adjacent to this project. The first thing I consider a big problem is that it's a huge eucalyptus grove. I'm very concerned about fire safety. If we bring in this element and we bring in this sort of new nexus where it becomes sort of a magnet for for a homeless situation, you know, that's a eucalyptus grove that we could find people to. That really, really concerns me because that property is right there. I can see where this place is going to go. Another thing is that you mentioned the sustainability plan has design criteria so that everything, you know, looks nice. Well, this is a monster building. It's going to go in fast, it's ugly, and it's going to be cheap. And everyone that lives there has to look at it every single day. And that's bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit because that hurts us. It hurts us to look at cheap buildings that don't enhance the environment. You know, I wish the state would get more creative on where they could house people like this. For instance, we're talking about the community accessible to students and kids. Well, why can't we build community colleges that house a certain number of kids like this? Or universities that house a certain number of kids like this? You know, put them right there on campus. Let's get creative here. There's 3 parcels there. We're only talking about 1. What's going to happen to the other 2? I want to know that because you're talking services. But now we are talking services and we are talking a magnet for homelessness because of all the services. And that's it.
The parcel that's closer to the riparian is truly unbuildable, and services I believe is really only for, again, for people on site who live at the building, not for anyone outside of the space. There will be no services provided for non-residents. I'm confirming that. Okay, I'm going to start taking some questions from the online audience here. And
Supervisor, we have Payson ready. Can you hear him okay?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, Payson.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get an update on regarding the explosion and fire at 5252 Branch 40 Drive back in August. And this past week, that same homeowner started another fire. And we've just been really concerned in the Happy Valley area about this exact thing happening, that if this person wasn't fined or red tagged for the code violations that created that explosion and fire, that this would happen again. And it seems that it did. The fire engines were there. I was told that it was a control burn that got out of fire or out of control and caused the fire, burning about an acre. That's what I was told by one of the firefighters on site at the time. I just wanted to know what's being done, if there's any updates. I have other comments that I could make about the situation that's been discussed now, but I'll save that for another time.
Okay. Got it. So Peyton, I hear you're asking about the fire at 5252 Branson 40, and it's a repeat fire property. There was also a fire on that property last August. Yeah, I was thinking about that on the way over here, and we have done everything possible under the law today since the fire in August, and we've got code compliance out there with the sheriff deputy multiple times. It's been really helpful to have your consistent reporting of what's going on that property, and we've tried to be as responsive as possible. I honestly don't know at this point. Do we need new laws? Do we need like some kind of fire starter law that we impose an additional fine if there's more than one fire on your property in a single year? It's clearly a problem, and we need to be able to take greater action. And if the law is not allowing us to do it now, then we need to improve the law. So, I'm completely share your concern. Jamie, I don't know if you've been following this case very actively. Is there anything that you want to add?
If I could say, one of the things for me is that I totally hear you. I really appreciate all that you have done. And I know your office has been working really hard and making sure that everything that this homeowner is abiding by the law, and you're following the law as well. I just wonder if there's not a way to escalate his situation to more of a emergency type situation. Is there anything within the law that allows us to, this is a repeat, right? This is the second time in less than 6 months that this person has endangered the entire valley, and quite frankly, under slightly different circumstances, could have burned all the way to the coast, right? So at what point does it become a homeowner just, illegally building structures and causing electrical fires that cause explosions, which is not good for them to be out of code compliance? But then at what point does it become an emergency situation because this person's a repeat offender? I guess I don't know. Maybe it does need to be a new law, and whatever I can do to help with that, because this has got us all afraid and concerned. All of the fires, the CZU fire obviously set off even more concern than we already had in California. But and we're creating firewise communities. We're doing all of the work that we can do to protect ourselves. But when we have a homeowner that's so careless, it feels like there's nothing we can do.
So Payson, I just want to respond to a few things that you said. I think you're absolutely right. I think something like this does escalate the situation, and I'm not sure, if we can speak to the legal framework for what that looks like right now, right here, but that I'm working on this personally, and we're going to make sure that all the relevant agencies are talking and coordinating, and they are moving this forward. So as you and I discussed, code compliance was in the process of getting the property owner to sign a stipulation and order when this second fire occurred. And there is some thought that this fire happened as possibly part of the property owner trying to come into compliance with some of those violations. We don't really know, but in any case, you're exactly right. This does escalate the situation, and we're talking with code compliance as well as the sheriff, planning department. Everybody's together on board, and they will be escalating the situation. It just has to go through that legal process the way we've discussed.
Got it. Again, I want to thank you guys for doing all that you are doing, because this time, this situation 5-6 months ago, I couldn't sleep at night, and I can sleep at night. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate that you're doing something. I know that you're working as fast as you can. I teach at Cabrillo. I understand that it's a bureaucratic system and things move slowly. That still doesn't help with the anxiety, but
right. I think, Payson, if I may, I do think that at least out of this, we've seen that we are able to be responsive with these things. I hope at least that you feel you can call Lieutenant Baldridge and you have, this resource here, and we're going to continue to help you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Payson. Next question.
we have Tony. Here we go.
Hi, thanks for taking my question as well. I'm also a Happy Valley community member, and I just wanted to make sure you understood it wasn't just a single neighbor. There is a really big community here, and they're really upset that a second fire broke out. So it's great to hear that you're bringing in the different agencies like County Council and Code Compliance to really ratchet up whatever compliance you can do, and keep visiting the site with enforcers to make sure he knows eyes are on him. Anyway, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Next question or speaker?
Are there any other speakers on the online audience? Let's see, we have Skylar.
So the only question I then would ask about the homeless project is, at this point as our representative, is there any way to stop this project from happening? Or is this all just a forum for us to voice our concerns and then it's going to go ahead anyway?
I think the biggest thing that would stop the project is some of the technical issues. If it is in fact unable to meet fire code, or if there's other challenges like that, or other safety issues like that that just can't actually be met with any design, that would stop the project.
All right, so are you official? So you're officially, I mean, after this meeting or before, or I don't know, are you at all considering pausing this project for now? Shelving it for now, maybe trying it somewhere else. Like I said, inside the city limits.
I don't have another opportunity to vote on this project at the moment. I mean,
so as things stand right now, you are in favor of the project as far as your vote is concerned. That's already been cast.
I voted for the project on January 25th, and there's not another opportunity for the board to discuss it at any greater length.
So another way that this project wouldn't go through is if you don't get all the things done in time, right? You kept talking about this timeline, this rushed timeline of having to get everything done. Once the funding is approved, you have to do like certain things by a certain deadline. And so another way that this could stop would be to not meet a deadline, correct?
Yes, but most of those deadlines that I was referring to were before the application deadline. I mean, but if there was some finding of insufficiency, like I said, that would stop the project, to my understanding.
But our opinion, while interesting, doesn't really have an impact per se at this point.
I wouldn't go that far. I think there's still ability to change the specifics of where the building is placed and laid out, to my understanding. So, and again, that has to pass muster as far as fire code and other such issues. So your opinion does matter, and I mean, whether this project moves forward or not, there will be more opportunities for you to be engaged, and how the community is ultimately managed in the long term.
So the other issue, the other concern would be, as we all know, there's a lot of drug use that goes along with being homeless, possibly just to manage being homeless, who knows why. But my point is that also Soquel is a place where we don't even have our own police force. We have sheriffs that are great, but that we share them with all the other areas that's wide and vast. Whereas, so if there is policing needed, we don't even have that yet. We are understaffed, I should say, to support such a project, which goes back to my point about the infrastructure being necessary to be in place before doing something such as this. Like, if you truly want these people to take advantage of the vicinity to Cabrillo College, well, then that infrastructure, to make that as easy as possible for them, needs to already be in place before anyone goes there. All of the transportation issues, all of the drug, like all of these things have to be already established, and then you can think about bringing people here to do that. But otherwise, it's just, I mean, it's not utopia, right? We don't, yes, that would be the right decision for everyone to make, to, you know, turn over a new leaf and turn over their lives, but they didn't, everybody's got their baggage, and that's just not the way the world works, right? I mean, people need help and they need guidance if you want it to happen. That's all. I mean, we all know this. It's just important to realize that, yes, a great idea, but doesn't have the support necessary to succeed. So while a good idea, not yet ready, because there isn't the support and the base and the structure and the foundation necessary to make it work. It won't work. All it will do is bring crime to this area and violence, because drugs bring violence generally. Sorry, that's, you know, that's the reality.
Supervisor, we can't hear you.
Oh.
Thank you.
I understand your concerns because of the trauma we've all experienced around this in our community. The fact there is a above average or very high per capita number of homeless people in our county today. We are a small county living with big city, big county problems. As I said, you know, I know that I will not be able to completely put to rest any fears that you have tonight. I've done my best. There are screening processes as when these housing units are given out against certain crimes, including drug offenses. So that's one piece of it. I also wouldn't say that our level of the sheriff's service within the unincorporated county is, you know, significantly less than what the police provide within the city of Capitola or Santa Cruz or Watsonville or Scotts Valley. In my experience, the sheriff's office has been extremely responsive, and I do think that they have the resources to respond and handle with any issues that might arise. So I'll leave it at that.
I want to clarify, I was not saying anything against the sheriffs. I think they're great. They're fantastic, but they are few and far between for the amount of area they must cover. That's all I'm saying. They're great at their jobs, but they're few and far between.
Sure, we could always use more deputies. You know, we do have a Live Oak resource officer who's specifically dedicated to the area and not on a beat at any given moment, and is available to respond to issues like this. Okay, next question.
I know, sorry, Mommy.
Jamie, is there another question from the online audience?
Yes, Nancy, you go ahead, and then Payson will follow.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Hi, Supervisor Koenig. You're in a very difficult situation because people are complaining about the homeless people, yet there's some solutions here, not perfect, but you're having to take the bullets for that as well. Regarding the sheriffs, you know, there are sheriffs located at Cabrillo College. There, the services, the individuals that will be treated, that will be housed in this complex are not the individuals that you see on the side of Highway 9 or Highway 1. They are individuals who have potential to have a future. And I do know that just down the street on the inside of Willowbrook, is another housing for, I think they're teenagers, young adults who have other issues, social issues. And I see that housing incorporated well into the neighborhood. I took my daughter to Willowbrook Park a lot when she was a child, and I work out at Cabrillo Fitness, and I pay attention to things, and I wanted to work out, and I feel that it was kind of sprung on the neighbors without maybe enough information for them to feel comfortable that it can be a good spot. And I just want to recognize you're in a difficult situation, but thank you for thinking out of the box. And I hope we can come together on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, I think we have time for one more question or two more questions online.
Go ahead, Payson.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say I came to this meeting with concerns about fire, but I've heard a lot of concerns about this homeless project. And as a professor at Cabrillo, I know people don't believe or want to believe that this is going to be a great resource for our community and that it's a detriment to the community. But we already have a lot of homeless students at Cabrillo. They sleep in their cars, they sleep on people's couches. They would be potential candidates for housing in a proximity that they could walk or ride their bike to the campus. And whether or not the community wants to believe that that's something that can happen or not, I'd like to at least consider that that's a possibility as much so as all of these negative things that are brought up. And I appreciate that those things exist, but this could be a great benefit to the community, and I believe it is going to be. So I just wanted to say that. I couldn't sit by and listen to all of this without saying that.
Okay, thank you, Payson. Is there anyone else online with the question? I think we have time for one more.
I don't have anyone with a raised hand right now. I have just put the instructions in the chat. If you do want to make a comment, please press the reactions button at the bottom of
Okay,
the
all right,
screen.
then I'm gonna go ahead and take a last question from the audience here.
Sure, thanks.
Sure, yes, sir.
Thank you for your service, and I'm committed to the safety in our community. And what was I going to say? So I read that illegal drug use cannot be used as a reason to evict the tenant, and so let me finish, please. So so my question is, why would it be made allowable for tenants to consume hard drugs like speed or heroin? And do you feel that that model is safe for our community? And I live just a block away. I own a house. So
Obviously, I don't want there to be in this project in any way to bring drug use or other negative impacts into the neighborhood. I think the best way to go forward on some of these, specific questions would be, if the project moves forward, we can bring a list of things that would potentially disqualify, more specifics about what would disqualify someone from receiving the housing in the first place, or what violations of lease agreements or other terms would cause someone to lose the housing or would not be allowed on the premises. So I think that's the best I can offer you right now. I'm sorry I can't provide more details, but happy to bring that to the next meeting if there is one. Okay, I think that's all we'd have time for as far as the larger meeting. I'm happy to hang out here and answer questions and talk to you individually, but I think we'll bring the larger meeting to a close and say goodnight to the online audience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties tonight. Appreciate your patience with us.